This is the Route to Tech podcast, and my name's Liam Bateman. In this series, we explore the careers of leading figures in the tech sector. We look at how they got started, what they've learned along the way, and what they look for when hiring. My guest today is none other than Jamie McMullan, co-founder and COO of Silverchip, and my personal friend and long-time business partner. We covered a lot in this conversation. We talk about how he wanted to be a vet when he was younger. We look at how his first website had completely questionable motives. And we discuss how anybody can make it in the tech industry and nobody is born special. And we're live. Jamie, do you want to give a quick introduction to kind of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Jamie McMullan. I am one of the co-founders and the COO of Silverchip. COO, effectively operations. So generally speaking, I for the most part manage the PM team and the kind of sales and marketing side, but I generally sort out any issues with how things work within Silverchip pretty much.
Awesome. So we're going to start off by going right back to the start as such. So we're going to go back to when you were a kid, before we sort of look at your tech journey. Did you have a job that you wanted to do when you were a kid?
Yeah.
What was it?
I wanted to be a vet.
A
veterinarian. Yeah.
Why? What? So what made you? What caused that? I didn't know that.
Did you not?
No.
What made me want to be a vet, or what made me not be a vet?
Let's start with what made you want to be a vet.
I think I just love the idea of like helping poorly animals. That was my thing when I was a kid. It was like I just want to help poorly animals, and then I realized that helping poorly animals means that you've got to see poorly animals every day.
I think I've heard that before from people that want to be vets. That tends to be the put off that actually a vet sees animals in the worst case, not in the best case. That makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I was just like, nah, I'm not going there.
Fair enough. So when did that change then? Talk to us about before you kind of entered into tech. What did your career kind of look like? Did you go to college, university?
Yeah. So that was like primary school that I wanted to be a vet. Then my mind shifted because I was really good at maths. So then my mind shifted to kind of like more maths-based stuff. Mm-hmm. I wanted to kind of get into some form of like physics or biology or something like that, which is kind of that was what I started doing at college. Yeah. Then gaming took over and I failed college completely. And yeah, then I kind of stepped into went into the family business, selling fireplaces.
And so the family business was selling fireplaces. So did you do? What did you do there basically?
So for all intents and purpose, I was a sales assistant,
right,
generally speaking. So I went in. It was my dad's business, so I came in to sell fireplaces, and then it was kind of like it'll teach me the ropes on how to run a business, and I can take over the family empire, so to speak. Right. But it kind of quickly led into, for me, it was all about, I was on commission. So it was all about sales, and it was all about how do I get people through the door. If I can get more people through the door, I get more sales. If I get more sales, I earn more commission. So I started looking at the websites for my dad. This was back in 2006. It would have.
And how old were you then when you started looking at the websites?
I was 17.
Right. Okay.
So it was, for me, it was just, I looked at the traffic that was coming from them, and I looked at we started tracking sources of inquiries, and it was like, we're getting so much from the web. So it's like, okay, let's run some campaigns, or let's like try and do some SEO or do some AdWords or something, or make the websites better. Right. Yeah, that was kind of the
nice. So that was more that was the digital marketing side of things and sort of driving traffic to the sites. Did you have any coding experience prior to that? Did you build any websites prior to that?
Not me personally, but we kind of, as you know, we made a little website to when we were kind of, I think, how old was I? Was I 10 or 11, or was I 9? I can't actually remember.
I know where you're going with this, and I think I must have been a bit older, so I must have been about 13. So you would have been about 11, I would have been 13, 14. So yeah.
Yeah. So that little GeoCities website, God rest its soul,
We
GeoCities. But
we probably should go into that then. So yeah, so go on,
all
tell
right.
the people about that.
Well, basically, we made a GeoCities website to capture people's RuneScape account details, and RuneScape is an MMORPG for anybody that knows it. Like it's now RuneScape Classic, and all that jazz. To us, back in the day, it was RuneScape. There's one RuneScape. It was 2D. It was in browser. You walk around the world. Um, and yeah, we made a little website which offered people free in-game items if they gave us their username and password, and we would put them in their account for them. It's kind of basically it was some original fishing, wasn't it? Really.
Yeah, it was fishing before fishing was kind of a thing, and
We
security
said we
and
knew the game developers, didn't we? That was it. We put the message on saying, we are friends with Andrew Gower, and there was a legendary blacksmithing character called Blue Rose 13X. We are friends with Andrew Gower, and Blue Rose 13X will make you some plate armor, and just give us your account details, and we'll put it on.
there we go. So there's the first history of our coding
Yeah,
experience was kind of stealing stuff in a virtual world. I don't
yeah.
recommend doing that anymore. Things have got a lot stricter, and there's a lot more money in games now than there was back then. But yeah, I'd totally forgotten about that.
Chaotic children we were.
We were indeed, and I'm sure. Yeah, yeah,
The best thing about it, I remember thinking when we built it, at the end when someone puts their account details in, it popped up with a screen at the end that said, "Thank you. An email has been sent to," and output an email address with your details, and we will get back to you shortly, or something like that. And we didn't know how to change
to
that
change
final
that
screen
screen. I remember that.
because
Yeah,
we didn't want people to see that the details were being emailed out, but people still did it because they were
it was
not
a, it
very
was a weird
wise.
time. Yeah, the internet wasn't a wise place, was it? I remember doing that, but I remember I think we finished it at like it was like 2 or 3 in the morning,
Yeah,
and it
we
rolled
sat up
in.
all
And
night, didn't we?
yeah, we were sort of building that website in your brother's room for the for many hours. So yeah, so all right then. So away from scamming people
And
on online
children.
games, digital fraud as it might be called these days. Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of what did you kind of find exciting, and kind of did you fall into that kind of digital marketing role, or was it something that you actively pursued?
I fell into it. Yeah,
Right.
100% fell into it. It was just a point. It was just a, if I'm going to take over this business, then there was already competitors hammering us on price online, from my dad's shop. So it's like we need to get online, and we need to start trying to sell online, or at least be more present. So for me, my entry was purely from a business perspective.
Yep.
It was to get more sales into the shop, basically.
Nice. And
Yeah.
when you did that, did you fall in love with the process? Did you enjoy what you were doing, or was it just purely focused on the outcome of generating more sales?
It was the thrill of that, because it's quite in that respect it was competitive. So I understood who the competitors were,
Hmm.
um, you know, and I just wanted to beat them. So I just wanted to be a higher rank than somebody else on Google, or I just wanted to get more sales, or so it was twofold. I wanted to get more sales, and I wanted to get more commission.
Yeah.
Obviously that's good for my dad as well because it's his business, but I also, I wanted to get a higher rank, and I wanted our website to look better than other people's, because like I saw theirs and I saw ours, and it's like if I was buying, I would want to buy from them. So
Yeah.
like, and I realized that we could charge more, we could potentially charge more money in the shop if we had a better looking website, because people would trust us more. So it was just that was me at like 17 years old, just
Yeah.
thinking like, if we look better, we could probably charge more, and we'll probably get more sales, because it's a seems like a logical cycle.
That's really cool because you were 17. You said then, didn't you?
Yeah.
So you would have been second year college.
Well, I wasn't in. Yeah, I would have been second year college. Yeah, I wasn't in college, was I? I
Ah,
dropped
so
out.
you didn't finish. You didn't
No,
finish
no, no, no,
2 years
no.
of
First year.
college, right?
Yeah, so I had 50 some percent attendance in my first year because of World of Warcraft.
Oh wow.
Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Right.
wow, indeed.
Wow.
Um,
Indeed. Yeah.
and yeah, I dropped out and went into the family business, because I was, like I say, in college, I was doing computing. I was doing computing, physics, chemistry, and maths and mechanics.
Yeah.
So all very kind of science based. things, but I just didn't go. I didn't like
So
it.
what didn't? So when it comes to, because I know that you are a very intelligent guy, and it's very well known in Silverchip that you're part of Mensa. So clearly, them subjects like were not. It wasn't the subjects that was off putting. So what was it about education that didn't click for you?
It was just boring.
Right.
It was just. I think what because it's all textbook. It just wasn't creative. It wasn't what for me, them kind of studies, the whole point of going into them was, whether let's say it was physics or biology, like I don't know,
Mm.
to discover a new metal or to find planets or to to launch a new Mars rover or something like that. Like, but that's all
Yeah.
creative thinking, and I know you need the foundations to do it,
Hmm.
which obviously that's important. But I just wasn't invested in that, or it wasn't really taught in a good way either. It just wasn't. Yeah, I just didn't enjoy it.
That's fair enough. That's much the same as my experience, for sure. But when you went to college, then did you have a plan of what you wanted to do after them 2 years, or was it unknown at that time?
I was in my head. I was gonna go to Oxbridge. I was gonna go to one of them. So
Right. Okay.
that was what I
Why?
wanted.
What triggered that? In sort of why did you want to go to Oxford or Cambridge?
Because I felt like I was capable,
Right.
and I felt like if I wanted to do something really highly science based,
Yeah.
like that was the place to go.
Right.
So
Okay.
for me, that's like the pinnacle. It was like the pinnacle of university, and it was like,
So
right, well, I think I'm good enough.
it sounds like again it wasn't the act of going; it was the challenge or the
Yeah,
uniqueness of going. Um,
yeah, because they were
yeah.
the best. So it's like
Right.
I think I'm good enough to go there. So that's where I'm going. But then I had a college teacher who told me that because of my GCSE grades, it
Hmm.
doesn't matter what scores I got in college, I'd never get in. And I actually think that was
Is
the
that
point at
true?
the time. Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that
100%.
actually is what he said
Yeah.
true though? Does
Oh, I
your
don't know if it's true.
GCSE affect? I didn't know that affected
No idea.
your university acceptance.
No idea. But I was 16 years old, and she told me that it was my chemistry teacher.
Right.
And I was just like, well, what's the fucking point? Sorry, I don't know if it's not swear, but
It's all right.
what's
This is it's fine.
not a family show, right? I was like, what's the
Fine.
fucking point? I was like, there's no point. That's what I want to do. So
Yeah.
if I can't do that, and no disrespect to all of the other universities, I was 17 years old. I don't know
Yeah. Yeah. Oxford and
universities. I just
Cambridge.
wanted the best.
Yeah, they're put on a pedestal, aren't they? For sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that knocked me a little bit. And that was like, well,
That's really interesting that a teacher can would say that and then have that effect on someone that even what are we now? We're sort of are we 15 years on from that moment and it's still remembered now
yeah.
as a thing. And it
Bearing in mind as well, right? In GCSE level, I got 4 A stars, and my A stars were my maths, my two maths, and my maths and statistics were A stars,
yeah
and my sciences were A stars. So that was
yeah
the best in my head. That's the best you can get for
yeah
them
it was,
subjects. So I was thinking, that's what I'm going to pursue. But
yeah
according to her, all of my other stuff in religious education and all the other, they were B's. They were B's and
right.
A's maybe. They weren't like
They were
A
good
stars,
grades.
but
Yeah,
they were decent grades. But yeah, apparently they weren't good enough. So I was like,
that's interesting. It just shows, doesn't it? Because it's kind of been a theme that we spoke to people that they look back and there's pivotal moments by teachers, even either in a good way or a really negative way, and it affects everything that they've done since. And it affected their career path, their almost their life, their ambitions, and how influential teachers can be at that age.
yeah. Do you know what though? I'm gonna draw right back to another experience there that I don't know if it's just teachers as well,
Okay.
because like I remember when I was a kid, I was told that I was a clever one. Whether I was or wasn't
Yeah.
is a different matter. And then I remember this is another specific memory. I remember which one was this? It was one of the times I was in hospital as a kid. I
Oh yeah, we'll
think
get to that.
yeah, I think it might have been to do with my kidneys or something. I don't know. But anyway, I was in a hospital and this nurse turned around to me. She was asking which hand to put a cannula in. I was like, oh, can you put it in this one here? Because I'm left-handed. And she turned around to me and she said, oh, you're left-handed. That's really interesting. Left-handed people are really good at maths. And I remember
Right.
that because I thought, oh, I'm left-handed. Oh, right. I'm really good at maths.
And how old are you
Great.
there, roughly?
7.
Right, so you were really young there, basically.
Really young, yeah,
And
really
then,
young.
so, because I was about to ask you, kind of, where does your confidence in your ability come from? Because we talked, obviously, everything we talked about there, you were kind of very driven. You knew you could achieve something, and that's obviously you've just referred to being told that you were good at maths because you were left-handed, and obviously being 7, my 6-year-old, if I told her that I could fly one day, she'd probably believe me at this point. So they're quite influential. But is there any other reason you think that the confidence in kind of what you do comes from?
Um, no, I don't know. Obviously I've got 2 older brothers and an older sister, so
Ah, okay, yeah,
that's competitive. That's the kind of competitive edge to it.
yeah,
Um, you know, older brothers, I think, are whichever way you cut it, you fight and you want to be
yeah,
better than the other one. So like that probably, I reckon that comes from there.
yeah,
That's just the wanting to be better. But then if you want to be better, you have to be confident in yourself, I
yeah,
think. You can't say I'm going to be better or I want to be better than you, but not believe that you can be.
yeah. That
So,
makes sense.
yeah.
All right. Well, if we fast forward then to kind of when you, what did you do after the fireplace shop? What was your next move?
Um, so that was us, wasn't it? So that was when we set up Silverchip. So just during the fireplace shop, we drafted a business plan, didn't we?
Hmm.
And said that we were going to an agency, a digital agency, and then we set up Silverchip, doing
And that
IT support, digital marketing,
we did everything, didn't
building
we? Did
webs. We
everything.
did absolutely everything,
Um, and that would
fixing
have been
printers.
2010.
2010, yeah.
And when did the idea for that come about? So that was, from my memory, that was March 2010 that we started working together officially.
Yeah.
When did the idea to do that and make that shift come about?
So that it was about 18 months prior, maybe 12 months prior. I think we started working on the business plan
Yeah.
because you were a contractor, as far as I remember.
Yeah.
And um, you know, so bit slightly more history. You did the Manchester Fireplace and the Fireplace Antiques website for us.
I did, yeah.
And then you was the one who put us into contact with some. I think you actually managed it originally. Actually,
The
the SEO
SEO
guys.
outsourcing, yep.
Yeah, Blue Sapphire Creations, I think they were
That was it,
called,
yeah.
the
When
Indian company.
when SEO outsourcing was the only
Black
way to
Hat.
get, yeah, black hat, but it was kind of done by everybody, and it was a way
It
to
was,
get Google rankings,
yeah,
for
and it was
sure.
easy. It
It
was
was easy,
easy
yeah,
mode. Yeah.
yeah, it was very easy. And that so,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that was about 12 months before.
yeah,
Um, what did how was that shift? Obviously, you're going from kind of working and being kind of the family business and kind of looking at taking that on, and
yeah.
then obviously you've turned around to your dad and gone, listen, Dad, I'm off to set up a business with one of my friends. We're gonna do digital stuff, IT support, build websites and stuff like that. Obviously, your exposure to that was minimal in the sense that you did the work
Yeah,
at
yeah.
sort of your dad's shop. How did your dad react to that? Because obviously you were the kind of you were the one that was looking to take on what he's built, and how did the transition and the family around you kind of, did they support you during that, or how did that work?
Yeah, yeah. So he was very supportive actually. I think it made it slightly easier that so coming into the family business, it all timed pretty well with me failing college because my sister was working with my dad in line to take over the family business, and then she
Right.
left there to go and start in recruitment. She went to Huxley, and so that timed quite well. And then she'd kind of paved the path for getting in, being in to take over the business and then leaving.
Right.
So
Okay.
it wasn't like it was a new experience for my dad. He'd already had one of us join and leave.
Do that. Yeah.
And then brother Dave, my second oldest brother, he just finished, so he was surveying like oil rigs and pipelines and stuff, and he wanted to stop doing that and be more in the UK more. So as
Right.
I was leaving, he was coming in.
Right.
So
Okay.
it was
Yeah.
like a revolving door for us, that
I see.
shop.
Yeah. So just sort of
Um,
different family members taking over one by one.
Yeah, basically,
So
yeah. So it wasn't too bad. It wasn't from a dad's point of view. It kind of made sense.
yeah,
He understood that, I wanted to do my own thing really.
right,
And I'd had comments of people saying, "Oh, you're being given the family business and all that jazz," and I was like, I don't want to be given anything. I want to do it.
right,
Like,
okay,
and I don't want that hanging over my head. Like, I want to own it. I want to make it myself,
you
type
want to
thing.
make it yourself on your own, yeah.
Yeah,
So when you obviously that was a big shift going from kind of selling fireplaces and kind of I've heard what you did there and it was quite manual and there was lots
yeah.
of people interaction and it was sales basically in that sense and you obviously came to work at Silverchip. What was your role when you first started?
So, so when I first started, I was in no way, shape, or form a developer. I wasn't. I'd never wrote code. I actually had somebody when I was younger. I had somebody do my MySpace for me because I didn't know how to code. So
MySpace.
they did the HTML and CSS for me.
Right.
So
So you'd
yeah,
never
that's how.
touched at this point. You'd never really touched HTML, CSS, or even just like basic coding.
No,
No.
no, absolutely nothing. No.
So what
Um,
when you basically when we started working together,
yeah.
um what was your role then? If it wasn't as a developer, what role was
it
that?
was it was sales and marketing, I suppose,
Right.
wasn't it? I think on my business card when we got them printed, I might have been marketing director or something like that.
Right. Okay.
Uh,
We've had a few job titles through the years. So like yeah, that's
yeah,
yeah.
my goal really was to find new business and to write proposals and to get them through the door basically. And
Right.
um, obviously you being the other founder and just the two of us at the time, it was you would then complete the work basically, wasn't it? So
Yeah, yeah, that's it. And obviously, you made that shift into that world. What about the people around you? We kind of touched upon this with your dad, but were the people around you supportive? Was there any negativity that happened around there? Obviously, making a career switch like that is quite big, and so I'm sure some of the people listening to this are going to be in that decision point where they're in a role
yeah.
and they're looking at switching industry, career, etc. What were the people around you like?
Do you know what? If I did get negativity, I
Mm.
don't remember it,
Right. Okay.
or I blanked it out because I just in my head it was like a I can't remember. I'm sure I've heard this before, but if it's the whole if you have a plan B, it distracts you from plan A type of thing. It's like
Yep.
there's no point listening to it because I'm going to make this thing work.
Okay.
So yeah. If there was, I don't remember it.
Okay.
Generally speaking, I think I'd like to say that people were supportive.
Yeah.
But from my point of view, I was 19 years old. I might have been going on 20. I was still living at home.
Yeah.
I'd saved up some money from working for my dad. And it was a case of we've got 6 months, or was it 8 months? Did we have
8 months
six or
it
eight
was,
months?
yeah. 8 months.
8 months to make it
Yeah.
work, basically. So yeah.
So I think it's quite an important point that. So obviously when we made the shift to sort of set Silverchip up as an agency, we'd saved up enough money to kind of fund ourselves and pay our bills as such for 8 months. Now obviously there's many people that are going to be looking at retraining, code camps, taking salary cuts. So it is quite a similar situation if someone's looking at moving into tech. Is that something that you'd recommend in terms of is that like was that a good thing? Obviously in hindsight it probably was a good thing.
Yeah, it was probably one of the best decisions we made because it allowed you to just focus on your actual purpose, which is to get the business running, not to make money. Because at the time it was like, okay, we've got time, we can make the right decision. If we make a decision here that's only going to kick in a couple of months' time, let's do it now because time is the thing we have at the moment. When you don't have that luxury, then you'll make the wrong decisions. So when you're too focused on making money, then you will make the wrong decision.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think for anyone kind of looking to shift into tech, really focusing on that kind of, if you are retraining, really focusing on that time is going to be really important because that's going to set the foundations for the future. Just like it did for us, we set the foundations of kind of our clients and our client base and our type of work. We weren't cutting corners to get the money in. We were delivering good projects, good work and learning. And that paid off massively come that 8 month mark, which was
well, like you say, one of the first projects that we did was we built our own bespoke e-commerce system, didn't we? That we could then spin websites out of. We did
Do you
call it
remember?
Zeus.
Do you remember? I was
Was
gonna
it
say,
Zeus?
do you remember the name of that? Yeah, it was Zeus. I found the code for that the other day,
Did you?
in the archives. So yeah, we've still got that.
But
Maybe
that
we'll.
was, but sorry, go on, go on.
I was gonna say maybe we'll release it and give Shopify a run for their money.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
but the good thing about that was that, like, and this was the whole point of time, because I think the first time we wrote it, we came up with all of these. Again, I'm saying we, I made much of a difference, but I did some front end on it, didn't I? Well, I did the front end in it, actually.
yeah, you did.
I did learn how to do that, but my point really is that we came up with all of these features, and I remember we dropped the architecture because we decided it wasn't good enough for the
Yeah.
first client. It took us longer to deliver the project, but then we had that system that we then. I think we maybe got 7 or 8 websites out of it.
You did have a
Other
good
clients, we
few
started winning
sites.
business, didn't we? And
Yeah.
just like we could do it in 2 weeks,
Yeah.
which at the time was
It
like
wasn't just e-commerce, if I remember rightly, as well. It was those brochure sites that were running on it as well. We could turn off and on features.
Yeah.
So it was kind of quite expandable.
Yeah, we had
Different
like
modules.
recommended products. We had other things that people have added to the basket. Like
Yeah.
this was 2010.
Yeah, it
Like
was
two
e-commerce
kids,
didn't
effectively.
yeah, we were, weren't we? Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. 21 and 19, and there. So carrying on then the journey. Obviously, I know that you moved into a development role. Kind of what made that? And you mentioned there that you did some front end. What
Yeah.
kind of made you shift into a development role, and what kind of development did you do?
So yeah, it was front end. The reason I shifted was because we did what we needed to do from a business perspective in terms of winning new business, and then it was a case of, okay, to keep this going, we need to do more work, and to do more work, it's easier for me to learn how to develop than to try and go down the route of recruiting people straight away.
Yeah.
So I just picked up and started learning. Like, you helped me. Well, you taught me basically. You taught me how to. You gave me like the foundational stuff in terms of front end.
Yeah.
Well, in terms of .NET and how to get around it, how to get around the IDs and all that jazz.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just literally just picked it up. Like,
And was that what was that like compared to the sales and the marketing element that you were doing? What was there something different about that from your perspective? What was different?
Yeah. So with the sales and marketing and the kind of relationship management and all that kind of stuff, it's all very long term. It's all very like there's a lot of delayed gratification in it, because it's you find the client, you get the brief, you write the scope and the proposal, you pitch it, and you win the work, and it takes a while, and you might or might not win it and all that. With code, you do and you see, and it's either right or it's wrong, and you fix it and you make it right. And like there's them little wins, them little kind of like, oh right, I've built that little part of the page now, or oh now I've got that, and this wasn't back then, things weren't responsive back then, but like it was all about that, like them kind of short bursts of kind of gratification as every time you did a little bit more and a little bit more. It was the opposite end. It was the opposite end of the spectrum, but it was actually really satisfying. Yeah, it's quite a nice break.
Did you find the element of kind of that? Because obviously, when you're doing stuff like sales and marketing, you are learning all the time, but you're learning immeasurable skills. Whereas when you're doing the programming, you're learning. Once you know how to use float, for example, back then how you've got that skill you can tick off. Then you go for the next one. Did you find that kind of structured, measurable learning to be beneficial, or did you get value out of that?
I think I don't know, because I think that it's similar to the sales, the kind of sales and marketing side of it. Once you learn something, what I'm trying to say here, it's all measurable. I think is what I'm getting at. Like with the sales and marketing stuff, when something works, then you reuse it. Like when a certain approach works, or a certain piece of language works, or a certain way, or a certain read on somebody, when it's like, okay, yeah, I know you're being a bit guided, I maybe need to do X, Y, or Z to get a bit more information out of you. Once you learn it and you see that it works, then you use it the next time. and it's the same. It's the same with code. It's the same thing. Like you say, using, I say back then when it was floats and whatnot. If you did a piece of code in a certain way, it might have seemed like it worked, but it didn't, and then you'd learn that actually it's probably a better way of doing it.
Yeah.
So I'd say they're quite similar in terms of it's the approach that's transferable. It's the ability to look back at something in an objective manner and go, I did that at the time. Does that now seem like the best thing to do? Or is there a better way that I could have done it? It's the same. It's the same in both ways. Like that's a mindset, I think, more than more than specific to code or sales.
Nice. So based off that then, and kind of what you learned there, what makes a good coder? Can anyone do coding, or do you have to be? Is there something special about people that write code?
There's nothing special about anybody in this world. Nobody has a special set of skills or a special set of anything to do anything.
So do you think that people are born to code, or do you think that anybody? So if there's somebody out there now, let's just pick a random. If there's somebody out there that's a vet right now, and they're looking at coding and going, I want to get into that. I want to try that. Can anybody do it?
Yeah, I think anybody can. I think at most, people have had certain exposures or experiences in life that lend them better, that give them a better mindset to the challenges of coding, because coding it's both an intellectual pursuit in some senses, but it also requires a certain mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the mindset that I think is most important. It doesn't matter whether you've been a vet or a hairdresser or a bricklayer or it literally doesn't matter. It's more about your approach, and more about how you tackle challenges and how you tackle problems, and less about what you do actually know. Nobody. I'm sorry to say this, but nobody is born with a specific set of skills. It's all through experience. I believe everybody's born exactly equal. But less
physical characteristics aside.
Aside from the obvious kind of challenges that some people have, generally speaking, it's
that's interesting. I totally agree. I think we've seen that over the past 10 years. We've seen people from all walks of life come into tech, as well as people kind of that have wanted to be developers since they were since they could type on a computer. And I think that's really important. I know there's going to be loads of people listening that are looking at shifting from one industry or career, moving into technology as a programmer, or into one of the 1,000 roles that exist inside a tech business, which is many. I just want to take 60 seconds to discuss one of the supporters of this podcast. North Coders provide industry-leading 14-week coding boot camps that are designed to help you become a work-ready software developer. Now, it's no secret that I'm a huge advocate of the North Coders program. We've hired several North Coders at my own business, and many of them have gone on to be integral to our growth and form part of the senior team. Not only do the students learn how to write code, but the teaching style goes deeper than that. They teach you to be self-sufficient, how to deal with problems, and how to thrive in a tech role. I followed the North Coders journey ever since they took some office space next to my company. I've watched them grow, but more importantly, I've watched them stay true to their core ethos. They've built an alumni of like-minded people and continue giving anyone from any walk of life a chance to work in tech. If you are looking at moving or retraining in the tech industry, please go check them out, northcoders.com. So what's the one bit of advice that you would give someone that is looking at moving into tech at the moment?
So development isn't the only way. It's probably a quick and an easy one. Like, whether you belief is belief is one point. Like, you just need to, if you want to do it, you just need to believe that you can do it. And that's really corny and cheesy, but you actually just do, because a lot of people, I think, they kill themselves before they even start. Like, they stop themselves before they even get going. So if you're going to do it, just believe you're going to do it. If you don't believe you're going to do it, then wait until you've got that kind of, you're ready, like, and you're ready to take the challenge on, because you need to be ready to take a challenge on.
Yeah.
And secondly, yeah, there isn't just one role in tech. I've probably done most of them.
Yep.
Maybe not all of them. I've been a project manager, digital marketing, been a developer, touched a bit of back end.
Yeah.
Put a few tables together.
You did. You did indeed.
Yeah. But I'm in no way an architect in that sense. But yeah, there were loads of different roles. And some roles suit certain people than others. And again, maybe it's just mindset, maybe it's their approach, maybe it's what they like to do, maybe it's the previous life experiences, whatever that is, whatever gives you your kick, do it.
Yeah. Do you think that having exposure to all them different roles has kind of given you benefit in all the preceding roles? So, for example, your ability to, obviously your first role was kind of in that kind of marketing and account management area.
Yeah.
When you moved to a developer, did that have positives? And obviously you moved to being a project manager. Did that give you more? Did it give you more and kind of make them roles better?
Yeah. In some respects it did, yeah, because taking that is an easy one there from digital marketing to development, that understanding what a digital marketer needs as a developer. Again, a lot of it's baked into the kind of off-the-shelf systems now. Yeah. Back then it was like you needed to create it, you needed to put that field in to change your title tag, or you needed to put that field in for your meta keywords or whatever. So yeah, that helped. There is a point to say that a little bit of knowledge is dangerous.
Yeah.
So, and everybody knows that, like, knowing a little bit about something is potentially more dangerous than knowing nothing at all. So there are certain times when I did realize that from a again, good and bad. So from a sales and a proposal perspective, sometimes my developer head would kick in, and I'd think that isn't possible, but I can't think of a way to do that.
Right. So it held you back in that sense.
It could hold you back, but then in other conversations, it was someone would start with a sentence about what they need, and then my brain is already off. As a developer, it's already off figuring out how it can do it, and I can speak with such confidence about that. I know exactly what we're going to do. Like, I've got an idea on how we can build that solution because I've already done it. From my developer head's gone off and done it.
Right.
So, and from a presentation perspective, that probably, I assume, that just gave out so much confidence in terms of what it is that I was pitching for, that probably helped win work. So yeah, there's positive and negatives to that, I think.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Totally agree about a little bit of knowledge. We've seen that we've had clients in the past, haven't we, that have kind of dabbled with a bit of code, and then they will, they're looking at kind of these extremely complex systems and sort of referring to just put a tag in here and it'll do it, or sending us kind of CSS and HTML to kind of drop into a system that there's no knowledge on. So I understand that side of it completely.
I got told the other day it's just an API.
It's just an API, yes.
It's absolutely. Just an API. The API is already there. It's just an API.
Yes.
And with no appreciation for everything that needs to go around.
And do that, yeah. Our the connected world and kind of stuff like Zapier and stuff like that kind of make some stuff look easy, and I think that people are getting more technical. So it's up to us kind of as tech people to kind of help explain that better in the future, for sure. So fast forward to now, to where we're at now. Obviously you mentioned your role with COO and kind of what you look after in that sense. Do you miss your development days?
Right, I do a bit. I really enjoy it sometimes, but my skills are old. So I've not properly dev'd for about 2.5 years, and it shows. Right. Especially in the way our tech stack's moved at Silverchip. Yes. Like, I'm very much and maybe that definition on front ender needs to be made as well when I say I'm a front ender, because I'm a HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery kind of developer. On front of a MVC project, ideally. But that's the that's more of a, you'd probably call that would you call that a UI developer now?
Yeah, it's a
Not
bit
sure what you call
confusing. That front end space, I think, is becoming very confusing. There's
that.
people that seem to be focused on the UI UX, and then
Yeah,
people that are really good JavaScript programmers that are sat in the front end. So obviously, as we've shifted so much logic now with the frameworks such as React and Angular to the front end, then
yeah,
obviously we've had to transfer some skills to how do you store data, how do you access that data, how do you make it persist, how do you make it temporary, kind of all them traditionally back end skills, I'd probably say,
yeah,
that have shifted over to that space. So it is quite an interesting time, and I think we saw an article. One of the team shared an article the other day around whether we should have almost like two tiers in the sort of context of front end developer,
yeah,
to kind of cater for this. You know, the people that look after kind of what the button does, and then the people that look after how the button looks and how it interacts with the user. But it's certainly a very, there's lots of grey areas between all kind of the stacks at the
yeah.
moment.
Yeah, so
For sure.
I do miss it. I do miss it a bit. But like I say, because it's aged so poorly, I suppose, in terms of in my skill set.
Yeah.
You know, I look around at there's not a single developer in our team at the moment who is a worse developer than I am. Like that, everybody in the business is a better developer than me, and that all that takes is 3 or 4 months on the new stacks. And to me, I say that when I'm saying developer there.
I'm going to
I'm
say,
saying
yeah, it's just about,
yeah. I'm saying developer because, you know, if you stick a development problem in front of me, I'll probably solve it as well as the best of them. I just don't know how to write the code. I could probably architect it for you.
Yeah.
Give me some principles, and I'll figure out the right way to do it. You know, even with,
I think that's really important as well. Syntax is ever changing, but the underlying principles of code and data flow is the same, you know, or it's similar to how it's always been.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing that you'll never forget. If you learn that, that's the thing that, you know, you will have for 10 or 20 years, and it's applicable to other parts of tech as well. It's not just the development role, and it's a bit more. Just because you don't know how to write a certain switch statement doesn't really matter. You know, it just matters that,
and we've got Google. You know, you can Google everything and anything. And I think, you know, there's a joke, isn't there, that the best developers are the best at using Google, and I think that's so true.
Or that keyboard with 3 keys: Control copy, Control C, Control V.
That's true as well. Yeah, lots
or
of
command,
pasting.
You know.
Or command if you're a Mac user. Yeah, for sure. So obviously you're COO now. You don't really miss the development days. Kind of what kind of gets you fired up now? What's the bit that motivates you? How big's the team now? Just tell everyone how big the team is.
So we will be 18 in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah.
We're just waiting for a couple of new starters to come in. So
we've got about 60% development staff roughly, as in programmers, and then obviously we've got lots of other roles as well that are fulfilled: testers, account managers, external designers, project managers, etc.
Yeah. So the thing that's really kind of driving me at the moment is the whole growth side of the business, and watching what's happening as the team grows. So it's, again, I remember seeing a diagram for this a while ago, but it was this whole idea of the lines of communication in a business as a single member of staff's added. And you know, when you add a third person, it adds 2 lines of communication, because these 2 people need to speak to the new person, so on and so forth. When you add an 18th or a 19th person, you know, it's an exponentially growing number of lines of communication that you kind of need to manage, or that you need to deal with potentially, or you need to have a solution for. Whether that's a hierarchy, or whether that's the way that teams are siloed, or whether that's how software is operating, or how automations are running in the business. So looking at the challenges that are happening as we're growing, and trying to solve that either through the software that we've already got, through the processes that we've already set up, or looking at what else is out there. That's the thing that's really kind of getting me at the moment. You know, we've just come to, for example, the end of our quarter, and I've come to report on. You know, we were talking earlier today, and I'm coming to report on like how much new business we've got, how much work we've completed, the size of our pipeline, and all that jazz. and looking at all of that and trying to generate a report today has kind of highlighted a couple of things where I want to change a few things to make things a bit faster or give us a bit more insight. So yeah, that's the thing that's really getting me at the moment.
So there's still lots of problem solving involved there, and kind of lots of it's almost
100%.
like the tech without the code. That is the way that you were describing some of that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So there's still a case of because my journey was it was development, and then it was scope and specification creation, and it's still identifying problems from kind of a BA perspective, I suppose, but just internally for us.
Yeah.
Scoping out what the issues are, and then trying to come up with a way to solve that from a trying to create a specification, I suppose, in that sense of how to solve that. Specification doesn't have to. It's not always a developer's piece of kit. It's something that the project management team or myself or the sales team will use as well to try and understand, how to fix a problem effectively and how to fix it. So,
spot on. And obviously, you're now responsible for hiring, and you're involved in both technical and non-technical roles. Hiring, what is it that you're looking for in a person? Because there's a massive influx of junior and entry level people into the sector. What is it that would make someone stand out for you?
Make someone stand out? That's a good question. I think there's a couple of things really. First one really is approach, whether that's approach to the actual interview that we have, or the mindset that they bring to the interview, or the way that they communicate. I don't think I've ever interviewed somebody and discluded them because of their whether we're talking marketing or development or sales, whatever it is. I don't think they've ever been discluded because of the technical ability. Obviously, usually they get. I'll be honest, they get filtered out at CV stage, because you can tell. You can tell when somebody's applying for a role and they've got absolutely no experience. Unfortunately, you have to have some experience. Even when you come in as a junior, you have to have had something that's relevant. You don't have to, for example, you don't have to have been in agency sales. You just have to have been in sales, for example.
Yes.
Or you don't have to have been in an agency or been a developer in an agency, but you have to have shown that you've been on a code camp course, or at least started trying to do something in Udemy or something like that. To show that you've not just heard from your mate's mate that he earns 70 grand a year being a developer and it's a job that you want to get into, because that's just the approach that doesn't work. Just the kind of passion and desire for the thing that it is that you're applying for is the main thing. Like you have to have it. It's a creative pursuit, whichever way you cut it. It just so happens to be a creative pursuit that people generally get paid quite well for. All the other creative pursuits, 95% of the people who do it don't get paid a lot, but they do it for the passion. So you have to be passionate about it, because as I know now, 2.5, 3 years on from me being an official developer, my skill set it's not useless. But my development skills, should I say, are nowhere near what they need to be. If I wanted to call myself, I couldn't go out and be a contractor now, for example, because my skills just aren't really relevant. Might just be a niche one, COBOL developer or something like that.
Working on the banking infrastructure.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, you have to, because the whole passion point, that's the thing that drives you. It drives your learning, and you have to keep learning in the tech space. So
I think passion's so important, and I think again, just to mirror that response, that is what makes you remember people. That's what stands out when we've interviewed people, and we've hired people several times where their passion has far exceeded the other people that have been in the interviews, but their experience was a lot lower. But we could tell that then people were going to progress, they were going to learn, because you can't teach that. You can't teach people to learn. If someone's got to do that on their own, you can give them all the skills and all the training in the world, but if they're not willing to learn, then it's not going to happen. So yeah, that's really important.
Yeah, on the flip side as well, like you have to kind of get in that as well, like, because you can't try and talk yourself out of that as well, because looking at me, I could have turned around and said that I wasn't able to learn because I didn't learn in college. But it's not necessarily about am I academically good,
Yes.
because it's a creative pursuit.
Yeah.
With that's just a bit more. It's a bit technical, but it's a creative pursuit. At the end of the day, that's what tech is. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Spot on. Cool. I just got a couple more questions then to wrap up.
yeah,
These
go for it.
bit more quick fire. But what's the best moment in your career so far?
Oh, that's a good one.
What came into your head straight away?
It was. We did a campaign for William Hill called Bet for England. You remember this one?
Yep.
And it was walking down Peter Street, and they had banners in the windows for it and everything.
Yeah.
And apparently all the shops up and down the country had been like they had a promo running for the website that we'd built.
Yep.
And I thought that was really cool. It just like that was 2000, and that was ages ago. That was maybe 8 or 10 years ago, but maybe 8 years ago. But that was that was cool. That felt cool.
Yeah, I think we spend so much time building stuff that's behind the scenes, that's internal, that's B2B, and to see something so physical and real. I remember that moment. I remember seeing it. I think I've still got the pictures somewhere of it as well.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. And obviously, then to counter that, what's the worst moment?
Worst moment. Oh, that's a good one. When we are ringing one of our clients and telling them that we were no longer running the business. When we kind of went to part ways, basically.
Yes, we did.
Sorry, I was just going to say that was probably one of the few moments in my life where I potentially lost belief in myself.
Wow. Yeah. Just to kind of give some background on that, there was a moment around 2013, I think, where we'd been running the business for 3 years, and I think I look back now and say that we got a little bit too big for our boots in the sense of what we were doing, and we made some decisions that didn't pan out, and basically the business was looking like it was going to be unviable going forward, and we decided to shut down what we had, didn't we? As in, everything was well and truly closing down. And then
there was a particular client that rang, and I spoke to them, and he said, "Why are you doing it? What what's he was asking me what's wrong," and he was like, "It's like why?" Because a couple of our clients were like they were a bit older, and I think because we were quite young, they were kind of they acted a bit more like mentors to us, didn't they, in some respects? And it was having that conversation of like trying to explain the rationale behind it. It just felt horrible. It's just like, I can't support your websites anymore. Like I feel really bad leaving you in the lurch, but there's nothing I can do. That felt horrible.
Do you think that was because we hadn't failed up to that point? So we'd always set a target and exceeded it, and then that was probably the first time where we'd looked at it and gone, we are not where we're supposed to be. If anything, we're behind where we're supposed to be, and we sort of ran away, didn't we?
Yeah, we did, and we always, and to be honest, this is probably true as for a couple of years after that as well. We always had that pull. Once we got to a certain point of, there was always that pull of, well, why am I doing this when I can have a much easier life and potentially earn more money as a contractor or in a different role? Because ultimately, for however long. And this is where that whole passion point has to come back into it, because objectively speaking, over the last 10 or 11 years, we could have probably had less stress and earned more money on average over the whole time if we would have gone off and done something else, whether it be a contractors or something else. We probably would have. So it was that point that kept us going of like, we wanted to create a good viable business, and it wasn't always about like how much money do we earn or anything like that. It was about making that, and I think at that point we let it get the better of us, like you say. We'd succeeded too much, and we didn't realize we didn't know how to handle at the time. If I remember rightly, at the time, shortly before then, we'd had a client go under with with what at the time was a big invoice owing.
Yeah, they owed us quite a lot of money, didn't they? Yep.
Yeah, we've made a couple of hires that didn't quite work out. And we'd had a couple of sites that weren't as good as we wanted them to be.
Yeah, they were.
And it was just like we're just messing up left, right, and center here. And like I say, I think that belief just kind of went, and it was just like you kind of look, you know, when you kind of step out of yourself and look at something and go, hey, you've been an idiot. Like you've like you said it before, got too big for your boots, but
I think it's interesting because there's only normally when that happens. I mean, passion comes and goes. Like, you know, we're both very passionate about what we do, but ultimately there's certain days that you wake up and you know, you're not enthralled. You're not desperate to get on there and open up the code and start typing. You know, anyone that thinks that that's going to happen forever is very naive, to say the least. What I think was really interesting about that situation was normally what happens is there's one of us that might be you know, might be feeling a bit kind of, oh, that might not work, whatever, but the other person is generally on the opposite side. So I think that's the only time historically where we both looked at it and gone, yeah, the belief had gone from both of us. And that obviously resulted in us kind of shutting down, and then thankfully we had a conversation and sort of here we are now, kind of thing. Do you think that was that failure there, was that a good thing?
We needed it because it was a bit of a wake-up call, and it kind of forced us to, and I feel like that has been you know, that has been a running theme since then. It kind of forced us to make sure that we are always stepping back and looking at ourselves objectively, trying to, and which is a really difficult thing to do. It's really difficult to step back from yourself and try and analyze yourself objectively and go, are you thinking about this because of X, Y, or Z reason? You know, what is your actual motivation, and trying to break down your own motivations for something in your own head. It sounds counterintuitive and it doesn't sound possible, but it is. You just have to kind of stop yourself, don't you? And I think it taught us that because we were almost like within a week or so, I almost felt like a different person, because I was like, I'd look back and I'd think, you're an idiot. Why did you do that? Or why did you think that? Or you know, that's not how you should, you know, and thinking that was you only a few days ago. That was how you thought, and that was how you acted only a few days ago. It teaches you that kind of introspective
it's resilience, isn't it, ultimately? And I think that's going to be really relevant for anyone looking to get into tech, is that because of how tech changes, you know, you're never going to be the best at it all, and you're going to have to constantly be humbled, constantly learning, and constantly questioning what's happening as well, because there's so many shiny technologies out there that people go, oh, we're going to use this one, and before you know it, 6 months later someone's worked out that wasn't the right way of doing it, and you've got to constantly question and kind of fail and learn. So, you know, being resilient is going to be really important for anyone looking to get into that, you know, tech space, and potentially more importantly, the developer space as well, because you're going to constantly come up against them hurdles. Awesome. And then final question, what does the future hold for Jamie, for Silverchip?
So for Silverchip, let's talk about Silverchip first. We've got our growth plans for this year. We've got a turnover target of about 1.2 mil this year, which seems fairly on track after Q1, which is pretty good. And there's a bit of growth to go with that as well in terms of recruitment. I think there's maybe a couple more we need to do that. Past that point, you know, we've got a couple of things bubbling in the background that could blow that apart, but you know, keep that under wraps for the moment.
That's right. Tease the people.
Yeah, well, it's just the way that it is, isn't it? And for Jamie specifically, I'll be honest, I'm not one of those people who starts the year and writes your goals out, or and I know everybody's different, and I don't really write goals down, or I don't like create visions and things like that. I kind of live. I probably live like maybe week to week or month to month in some respects.
It's funny because somebody asked me this question the other day and said, you know, what's the 5-year plan? And my response, we started out doing this, didn't we? Early days, we had a 1 year 3-year and 5-year plan or 3-6 month, whatever. It was kind of staged intervals. And I think we realized very, very quickly that whatever we were saying was going to happen in 6 months, you know, we didn't know what was happening next week or, you know, the next month. So anything that we put in that far in the future was arbitrary, because we were still changing and pivoting and kind of we were growing up, weren't we, ultimately?
Yeah.
So I think that's really, again, I think you've hit an important point there again, that, you know, especially when you're young or if you're new to an industry, you're going to change. You know, you might come in as a developer and you might go, do you know what? I love what they're doing over there in that analyst role, or I love what the testers are doing. And you're going to shift, you're going to change. So that kind of idea of planning too far ahead will get you away from the kind of what's actually happening in the moment. So I think there's a fine balance between that for sure.
There is, yeah. I mean, couple that with the fact that I've got a 1-year-old, so, you know, trying to plan what she's going to be like I know on any given week or month or whatever, it's not that it's not that easy. But yeah, I think, you know, like you say, this last, for example, and this is maybe a testament to that whole point of planning. But last year, I did think, I want to do some. I wanted to complete a couple of 100-mile rides.
Mm-hmm.
So some trailer rides or some road cycling competitions, and that got shafted by COVID, didn't it? But yeah, so this year, generally keep fit-ish. I don't have a specific goal. I just don't want to become a slob. You know, continue to kind of work hard at Silverchip, spend time with my family, and enjoy it as well. Not just spend time, because I kind of hate that thing. Not just spend time. Not just be, but be present and like actually enjoy that. And just look forward to kind of the second half of the year, basically. We've got through the whole thing without the C word being dropped.
Well, I kind of avoided the whole Corona situation, because I think
I know,
you know, again, it's
everyone's had enough, haven't they?
I think they've had enough of it now, and I think, again, the only benefit of that, I think there'll be lots of people out there that are in, you know, the furlough situation, or have in a role where they're uncertain of its future, or whatever it might be, and they'll be thinking about moving into tech. And I think that's going to open up so many opportunities for people, because tech's there, it's viable, it's waiting for people. So there'll always be some good stuff out of that as well as obviously the obvious negative stuff. Thinking one question we haven't touched upon, which I'm just going to hit now because I've kind of forgot about it, but it's kind of important, is if you were to go into tech now, if you were in a different industry, what would you do? Would you self-learn? Would you go to university? Would you use a boot camp, or anything else that you can think of?
Good question. So my route was find an established developer and tag along with him. So if you're young enough to do that and you have somebody you can do that with, then great, find that. Because I
will say though that I've not seen many partnerships last that long, to say the least.
Oh really?
There's many partnerships around us that have crumbled in the time that we've been working together. So, you know, bear that in mind for sure.
Yeah. You've really got to choose your business partner like your wife, like very wisely.
Truly.
They are literally a life partner. Like,
that's true.
Yeah. You've really got to.
But yeah, what would you say?
So, if I was to do it, what would my route probably be? So there's a whole point of age. If I was young enough, so again, going back to when we started, like I say, ignoring the fact of how we did it, I probably would be quite high risk and probably try and set myself up as like a put myself on people per hour or something like that. And just I'd probably just go the ultra confidence route, say that I'm a developer when I'm actually not, and get people to give me work and just try and do it.
Get it done.
I'd probably just do that. And secondary to that, if you know, that's a very high risk route, because you know, it's a bit harder. But secondary to that, I'd probably go to one of the boot camps. And ultimately we recruit from North Coders, so I don't know whether I'm allowed to say a specific one here.
You know, they're sponsors of the podcast.
Are they?
And
okay, cool.
It's no secret that I and you are huge advocates of what North Coders are doing.
Yeah,
Out there.
100%. Like the for me, I think it's because it's the mindset teaching again. Like
Yes.
they teach good tech and they teach good stacks, and they seem to come out with some good skills. But it's the mindset that they seem to come out with. Like that for me, that's the best thing from one of the North Coders graduates. I'd probably go on there. I'd find a way to, because they cost money at the end of the day. Things cost money that you have to pay for.
Yeah.
You have to pay for tutors and premises and all that jazz, and I fully appreciate that. And I'd find a way to get the money together for it. And I'd go and do that, and I'd apply myself 110% to it.
Yeah.
If I was going to do it, because again, you do it or you don't, you're in or you're out. Like don't just go on and spend the money and pitter patter around and
you've got to fully commit to the process.
Commit to it, exactly.
and be part of it completely. But you're right, and I think the boot camp situation out there at the moment is interesting because there's North Coders were one of the early ones, and I think that their foundations, their beliefs, their ethos is 100% in what they're trying to do. There's a lot of kind of rogue agents out there that have popped up, and I've personally interacted with a lot of developers that have gone on these courses, and they're left at the end with nothing, no support, no help in getting a role. So I think it's really important that you pick your boot camp correctly by sort of speaking to people that have been on the boot camp, people that have got jobs, people that are on it now. And there's so many, LinkedIn, you can just go on LinkedIn now and you can find anybody anywhere. So it's such a great tool, and definitely do your research on your boot camps.
Yeah, and I will say, like, as quite of a little nice kind of good news story, we were recruiting for a tester recently, as you obviously know, and I had some interaction with somebody at North Coders who said, "Oh, can I advertise it on the site and stuff?" Some of our graduates might be, but what I got from that was I started getting the details of a couple of the developers from previous cohorts. Who were maybe in a bit of trouble because of the furlough stuff and all that jazz, and they were firing CVs over to help them. There's absolutely nothing in it for North Coders with this, and it was just a case of, these are previous graduates, they're part of our community. If I can help them and help you fulfill your role, it's a win-win all round. And I really, really liked that, because it wasn't just I've got this percentage to hit, I'll just send you the new graduates, and we've got to get this amount of people into employment. These were people who had been in a role for a year or a year and a half and stuff, and there was absolutely no, realistically, if we talk from a business perspective, there was no commitment for North Coders to help these particular people send these CVs over, and they did, and I really liked it. So it was. I just wanted to mention that because I thought that was really nice.
That it was good, and it's also, you've made another good point, because we were advertising for a testing role, but there was people that had gone into a development role and found that it wasn't quite for them, and they were looking at moving into that testing space because they sort of found that, and that sort of goes back to the point that you mentioned around, you might come into the industry under one role, but you will shift around potentially, and you might move around to different areas and different parts of the business.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. And then obviously the final one was kind of university. Is that something that you would look at if you were to redo this again? No. Do you give any weight?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot. Yeah.
That's all right. Do you give any?
No.
Do you give any weight to, if you get CVs in? If you had a graduate that had a university degree, would that put them ahead or behind on, in terms of just on paper, another candidate?
No. I would argue that I would put more weight on a well-presented North Coders graduate than I would do from than a university graduate.
Okay. Yeah.
I'd be more inclined to offer a higher salary to the former, and I'd expect a better presentation.
Yeah.
It's purely down to, like say, university is largely academic, as well as, again, I've actually not been, so but from what I've gathered, and especially from the presentations that I've had from people who've come to interview, it seems to be much more of an academic approach, and the skills aren't as relevant. So it's never the stack that we're looking for.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But again, it's going to come down to that passion of, if you've got a North Coders graduate that is literally just here for the big salaries, and you've got a uni graduate that is, is writing code and wants to learn and stuff like that, and is really showing that, then I'm guessing that they would be still preferable.
100%, 100%. Yeah. So it's a good point actually. It's a good distinction there. I think my expectation is that I generally see a higher quality from the boot camps than I do from university. But I think again, you like say it is more mindset and approach, because I think by and large, I think the real kind of agile and passionate developers wouldn't lock themselves up in a university course for 3 years before they get to start. They just want to do. They'll find a way to get in now and get in straight away, because you don't need that formal. It's not like you don't need to be like a chartered surveyor or a chartered accountant or anything like that. Like, you don't need them qualifications to get into the industry or to sign something off, which is an interesting point in itself, that our industry doesn't really have that. We build in architect systems that could fall over on a single line of code from people who technically don't have qualifications. But my point is that you don't need it, so why would you go off and do it?
That's good. But yeah, I suppose the overriding point then is passion trumps everything, and that's what you'd be looking for. Listen, we've gone a little bit over the hour there, but I think we might have to come back and do a part 2 towards the end, because I think there's probably loads more that we could talk about. And I'm sure that we'll get some questions now around kind of our criminal years, as such as it was in our criminal years. Our criminal years as we stole fake armor off people on an online game, for sure. But thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And yeah, thanks again.
Beautiful. It's been lovely. Thank you very much.